Hi everyone, welcome back to Live Darts TV. After 5 long months, the Premier League is back as 9 of the sport's biggest names return to compete for the prestigious invitational title. This week sees a return to the temporary home of World Darts. As per the World Match Play last month, it's the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes, with 6 consecutive nights behind closed doors, and they're followed by a further 4 next week, after which the top 4 players in the table will go on to contest the playoffs. Now, the playoffs are currently scheduled to take place at the O2 Arena as has become Premier League tradition, but that, of course, may be subject to change depending on government restrictions regarding crowds in venues. So fingers crossed we could get some sort of crowd for finals night. The first 3 nights this week will form the end of the first phase of the competition before the player sitting bottom of the table on Thursday is eliminated on Judgment Night. And that's currently Daryl Gurney, who trails Rob Cross by 3 points. Those 3 nights will also feature a challenger as Chris Toby, Jeffrey Duzza and Jermaine Watamina look to put the cat among the pigeons by upsetting one of the Premier League regulars. If you remember back in March, Luke Humphreys became the first challenger ever to beat a Premier League player when he beat Gary Anderson in Exeter. So let's take a quick look at the table heading into night 7. And it's Glenn Durant who leads the way in his debut campaign with 9 points, 1 clear of reigning and defending champion Michael van Gerwen. Glenn having cemented top spot for the last 5 months, much to his delight, but a big test. Can he keep hold of it this week? First 2 games don't come much tougher. He's got Peter Wright on Tuesday, followed by Van Gerwen on Wednesday. So a real test there for Glenn. Michael, of course, has finished top of the table and reached the final in all 7 of his previous Premier League appearances. He really has made this event his own in the last few years. And he'll be looking to bounce back from a disappointing World Match Play campaign. So often we've seen Michael, after he's had a bad result, come back and tear everyone apart for the next few months. So that'll be interesting to see how he responds. Then you've got Michael Smith, who's one of 3 players on 7 points, along with Nathan Aspinall and Peter Wright. World Match Play finalist Gary Anderson on 6. And Gerwyn Price looking to make up a little bit of ground. He's drawn 3 and won 1 of his opening 6 games. So he'll be looking to convert some of those draws into wins, which is ultimately what cost him a playoff spot last year. So Going with a little bit of work to do. Rob Cross, another player on 5 points with negative legs difference. And then Daryl Gurney propping up the pile on 2 points. Daryl, you would have to say, can't afford another defeat. He's yet to win in this year's Premier League, having reached the semi-finals last year. So he'll be hoping that the break has done him a favour. Here's a look at the latest outright odds with title sponsors Unibet. Michael van Gerwen in his customary position as tournament favourite. You can currently get odds against. As we've already mentioned, Michael's got a terrific recent record in the Premier League, 5 times a winner, including each of the last 4. And he's 11-10 to retain the title once again. Gerwyn Price is up next at 5-1. Gerwyn's got a bit of work to do to close that gap on the top 4. He's yet to make the playoffs, but at the moment he's playing some of the best darts of his career, so you certainly wouldn't back against that. Elsewhere, in terms of value, well, you've got to look at league leader Glenn Durant, 12-1. They'd be looking to consolidate that spot and finish in the top 4. And he really is Mr. Consistency, isn't he, really, Glenn? He reaches semi-finals of the World Match Play again. That's his 4th PDC major semi-final within the last 18 months, now firmly established among the top 16. And you can never write him off against any opponent, really. He's just a real granite all-round player, probably one of the most tenacious on the circuit. Daryl Gurney is the outsider, 100-1. A huge turnaround needed for Daryl. And Rob Cross, 22-1. He's reached the final once before. And of course, he's got that pedigree of winning multiple PDC majors, but has got that legs difference and points difference to make up on the top 4. Michael Smith, another former finalist there, 10-1. And Nathan Aspinall, another debutant in this year's Premier League, who's currently in the top 4, is also 10-1. Maybe a little bit of value there on the Asp. So kicking off the night on Tuesday is a repeat of last month's World Match Play semi-finals. Michael Smith takes on his former sparring partner, Gary Anderson. Smith looking for a little bit of revenge for that 18-16 defeat in the semi-finals. It was a real nip-and-tuck contest. And, I'd be surprised if this one went anything but the full 12 legs, to be honest. Very little to choose between the 2 players, both fantastic scorers. The pace of the game suits both players and can just feed off each other's scoring power. So really looking forward to that when it could be a real blink-and-you-miss-it contest. And then we've got Michael van Gerwen, the reigning and defending champion, up against Rob Cross, the man he beat to win the title last year, 11-5 at the O2 Arena. Michael's won 18 of the 21 meetings between the 2 players. And like you say, he's looking to bounce back from that World Match Play disappointment against a player not in great form. Rob recently celebrated the birth of his 2nd child, so congratulations to Rob. But will that prove a welcome distraction from his form? And certainly no better way to get back on track than with victory over the world number one. What a confidence booster that would be. And then probably the most closely matched contest of the evening, and I certainly wouldn't be surprised if this one finishes a draw, is Nathan Aspinall up against Gerwyn Price, the Grand Slam champion. We've mentioned Gerwyn's tendency for draws in the Premier League. He's drawn 3 of his opening 6 this season, as has Nathan Aspinall. So, I don't think a draw would be a bad result for either player, to be honest, just to get them back into the swing of things. But this one certainly will go close. Very little to choose between the two players in terms of their all-round ability and their head-to-head record. Chris Toby is Tuesday's challenger. He was scheduled to play in his hometown of Newcastle. It's a real shame for Chris that he doesn't get that chance to walk out in front of that Tyneside faithful again. But he'll be delighted just to be involved and to get that match experience again. And he really has got nothing to lose against Daryl Gurney, who has everything to lose, really, when you look at his position in the Premier League. It's a must-win game for Daryl. All the pressure will be on the Northern Irishman. But a win, and he's back amongst it, and he gives himself a fighting chance with 2 more games after that before the cut-off. Chris is a big stage performer. We know he produces his best stuff on the televised stage, so I'd expect him to step up and really give Daryl a tough game there. And the final match of the night, another repeat of a World Match Play clash as Peter Wright takes on Glenn Durant. Durant obviously will know Michael's result earlier in the evening, so he could start that game in second spot. He'll be looking to repeat his victory over Peter in the recent World Match Play. It'll be interesting to see how Glenn fares. He's using a new a kite-shaped flight for the first time, obviously having used a pear shape for most of his career. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on how they fare, while Peter, who played with glasses and took them off, we saw during the World Match Play, just wasn't comfortable. He hadn't adapted to the glasses yet. He's had a month to kind of get used to them. All right, it's difficult coming onto the big stage. He hasn't really had much match practice since, but will he stick with the glasses or will he go without? And finally, here's a look at the match odds with title sponsors Unibet. As we know in the Premier League, very difficult to call any result as a banker really, but we'll try and pick out a little bit of value. I think in that first game, Michael Smith is about even money to hit the most 180s against Gary Anderson. Gary didn't hit anywhere near as many as we're used to seeing with him in the recent World Match Play. Whereas Michael was piling in the treble 20s. So I think Michael Smith is a little bit of value there to top the most 180s chart. Michael Van Gerwen, you'd have to say on current form, a huge favourite to beat Rob Cross. It's maybe worth looking at the minus 2.5 there for a little bit of extra value, as opposed to the 2 to 5 match win price. Nathan Aspinall and Gerwyn Price, well, just looking at the match market there, the draw 3 to 1, 6 draws between them in their first 6 games apiece so far. As you say, very little to split them, so the draw is potentially the value bet there. Chris Toby against Daryl Gurney. Well, Daryl is yet to register a win in the Premier League, so you've got to be looking really at Chris Toby, who the pressure is off. He's just going to be looking to relish the occasion and try and stake a claim to be in the event permanently next year, which he has a great chance. Multiple major semi-finalists. So Chris in the handicap market, or even the match win price, is probably the pick of the bets there. And the final match of the night, Peter Wright, just a slight odds on to beat Glenn Durant. Glenn 2 to 1, well, he's beaten Peter Wright before on TV very recently, so 2 to 1 is a good price if you can come out the traps quickly and continue that fine form that he showed in the first part of the season. So we're all set for a fascinating finish to the regular Premier League season. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you leave your predictions in the comments section below, and subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us across all social media platforms for complete coverage of the Premier League in Milton Keynes over the next 10 days.